Hi, hello. My name is AJ. Thanks for watching the AJ Snot channel, and we're playing gain ground. We're gaining some ground over here. Now, one of the things I tried making this episode before, and one of the things I noticed about this game is it's kind of challenging to play, but it is not very exciting to watch. Like, it just doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but in fact there is a lot going on. It's like you got a guy, and they have like certain specific kinds of attacks, and you got a couple different guys you can choose from, and the whole point is to get like all of your guys from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. But of course there's they got these bad guys in the way, and the bad guys do stuff. They throw stuff, or they just they run after you, or whatever that they're doing. And you can, if you kill all of them, then you gain the ground, or you can just get everybody to the other side of the screen. Sometimes that's easier said than done. But I figured instead of me trying to give commentary on what is, arguably a slow-ish game, I kind of wanted to talk about some other stuff. And I've noticed that I have kind of an attention deficit. Not kind of. I have a very adult attention deficit disorder. Where I try to bring up stuff and talk about it and have it happen organically, but being that I'm sitting here by myself, it's really hard for me to keep up to do, and I'm always amazed when other people can do it. So this is all just fair, just for transparency. This is pre-recorded. I'm recording this right now without playing the game. Later I will go back and play the game. And then we're just going to sync them both together, and you're going to be like, I can't believe he's not playing this and doing this at the same time. But I will be, and that's I'm already confused. Hey, listen, okay. What I want to talk about now is I want to talk about some movie things that I noticed don't really get talked about a lot. Some of it's some pretty popular headcanons, and some of it's not. Some of it's some stuff that I've brought up to other movie nerds, and it's like something that's never even dawned on them. And I really feel like it's important to the whole zeitgeist of some of these franchises and stories. But before I get into the first thing, I just want to just go ahead and plead and beg and ask you to just gently caress that like button. Maybe throw me a subscribe, just give me a little something for the effort here. It costs you nothing. And you get all this entertainment. I've got a huge backlog of very mediocre videos of me trying to be as entertaining, as funny as possible while playing video games more poorly than your special needs iguana. But anyway, here we go. One of the things I want to talk about, because this has always kind of been basically I want to talk about shifting perceptions and perspectives in movies, because it seems like there's like a popular perception in certain cases of certain things, like we see everybody sort of has an agreed upon view of Star Wars and where things exist and how that they work. And like there's even jokes. Family Guy, I think, made a joke one time in their Star Wars episodes about how weird it was that Luke Skywalker was so attached to Obi-Wan Kenobi, even though he had like really just started hanging out with them. And it's just, and the Force, and being like I dead on believe in the Force, even though he had just started to like learn about it, like an hour ago or something. And the thing is, and it's not explicitly explained in the first movie, but I always felt like until this last batch of sequels came out that there was a time jump that was sort of meant to be understood. Like if you shift your perspective and you watch the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, if you watch that trip from Tatooine when they all get together with Han Solo and they're on their way to where they think Alderaan is, if you look at that as like a 2-hour long trip, yeah, it's awkward and weird, and it seems like they are way too familiar for that. But if you think about it like a boat trip would have been back in the actual 40s, and you imagine this could have been 3 or 5 weeks that they were together, just being on the ship in hyperspace, waiting to get to Alderaan because it was much farther away. And they're just, Luke's training with the Force, and the R2-D2 is playing board games with Chewbacca, and they have a long time to develop this level of rapport. If you look at it like that, it feels a lot more organic in my opinion, and it feels more lived in, that there was more time in between some of these scenes. The same can be said, like Dagobah is in Empire Strikes Back. Dagobah is like this short montage where it's like, oh, he was there for 3 days, but if you look at it like, oh, he was there for 6 months, then his progression and his training and his understanding of where Luke Skywalker is in his journey and learning about the Force makes a lot more sense. Now, this is something that I held on to until these sequels came out because of Episode 8. If you watch Episode 8, you notice one thing. The one thing that I hate about Episode 8, it really just feels like Empire Strikes Back, but like in reverse, and that drives me absolutely nuts. I feel like Episode 8 was the biggest squandered opportunity in a Star Wars film that they've ever had. I would put it just slightly above the Christmas special, and that is contestable. But Episode 8 was, they finally set a comparable timeline to these things. You know, they said how much time that they had to be on the run until they ran out of fuel. They said how much time that Finn had to go look for this slicer and how long, you know. And then they showed that they could make it to another planet, have a whole separate adventure, make it back, and then do this infiltration all in the matter of the very short amount of time that they were running from the New Order fleet. And it just... oh, well, now you've given a time scale to everything. And so now this original perception that most people had of, you know, these planets being just like right next to each other where you can just hop, skip, and jump to them, it's been codified, and it's solid now, and that's just what you have to accept. This was further done in Episode 9 near the end of it when they send out a call for help, and everybody kind of shows up a couple hours later. You know, like you can get from one end of the galaxy to the other, like driving from Atlanta to Panama City Beach, Florida. You know what I mean? And it's just, to me, that's irksome. It makes the galaxy that all these stories take place so much smaller, and thus it makes the story so much less rich. Because in my imagination, you could say that, well, on the way to Alderaan, there wasn't a nonstop trip. Maybe they stopped and, I don't know, got like trucker snacks or something, you know, just hanging out or whatever, and everybody got to talk about what their favorite beef jerky was, and Chewbacca actually had Wookiee jerky, and they were like, you're into cannibalism? I was like, hey, you don't know anything about Wookiees, do you? We totally eat other Wookiees, it's great. Or maybe not, I don't know. I mean, this is just stuff you can make up inside your own head, but like that time factor was totally spoiled, that I had really enjoyed. That time perception in those movies was spoiled with Episodes 8 and 9, and then since then I feel like it's kind of been further solidified in stories with The Mandalorian and some of these other series that are put out. I watch most of the Clone Wars, and they don't seem to have any effect, because it seems like they go to one place and they stay there, or even when they're on trips, you could easily understand that there's a time skip there. But yeah, Episodes 8 and 9, that's what it was. Episodes 8 and 9 is, yeah, just kind of, It squiffed the whole possibility that things are taking longer than what you see on screen, and it just feels like, you know, a reward for the attention deficit of moviegoers in general. But I guess that's a gripe. But I feel like that the perception of time would really help the overall enjoyment of those stories. Anyway. Let me get on to this next one, because this is one that's actually, it's not my own headcanon. It's one that I heard when I was much younger, but I'm not sure if everybody's ever heard of this, which is, you know, they got this Flash movie coming out, and they got Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. And for any older millennials, you know, Michael Keaton was our Batman. You know, they based the animated series. I honestly remember more of the animated series because I was a little bit older. But I had watched Batman and Batman Returns over and over again as a kid. And then, of course, they based the animated series on Tim Burton's Batman. And so to see Michael Keaton come back in that universe and take up the mantle again, it's just something really cool. But then there's people, I mean, and even George Clooney, and I think Val Kilmer said stuff like Batman and Forever, which I liked Batman Forever. But Batman and Robin is a garbage dumpster fire of a movie. And Batman Forever is where it starts to get a little campy. It's a little less dark, it's a little less weird, and it's really campy, and it's almost too colorful. And the depictions of Gotham are sort of over the top and ridiculous. But they, I heard this headcanon, I don't know, years and years ago, that Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are both movies that exist in the universe of the Tim Burton Batman. So in the Tim Burton Batman, Batman exists and is real and was reported on in the news, and people have heard stories about Batman. And so Hollywood, looking to make a buck, makes movies and casts, Val Kilmer and George Clooney, and, they make these other Batmans that exist and they could totally do. I doubt that they do, but in this Flash movie, if Michael Keaton's Batman refers to those Batman stories, that would be super awesome. There's no way he does, but I mean, if he does, that would be super rad. But I've always thought that was a really interesting headcanon, and it's worth something. It's one of the things that almost makes Batman Forever and Batman and Robin way more fun to watch when you realize it's like this meta, like deep second layer of storytelling. It's a story within a story, and then it's almost forgivable for how campy and cheesy that it is. So this last thing that I wanted to talk about, which is a phenomenon that I've noticed with Kevin Smith movies. I'm a pretty big Kevin Smith fan. I'm not the biggest Kevin. I had a friend that was huge Kevin Smith fan. Like, modeled a lot of his styling and everything after Kevin Smith, and just loved the whole View Askew universe. And me, even as a fan, I've got to put this out there. It's like Kevin Smith made this one amazing movie on a shoestring budget when he was a kid, which is Clerks. If you've never seen Clerks, you totally owe it to yourself to find it and watch it and have a good time, because Clerks is amazing. And he just keeps kind of trying to remake it. Of course, it's had sequels. I think he just came out with Clerks 3. Clerks 2 was like probably one of his more successful, higher budget movies. It had a great cast, great story, without getting too far away from the Clerksisms of it. But with the success of not just Clerks, but he made Mallrats after that. And Mallrats is fantastic because it has the same like comedic pacing as like Animal House, with subplots and backplots and everything interwoven, and you get these callbacks and payoffs, and it's a fantastic comedic, I don't know if I would say masterpiece, but I truly love Mallrats. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time, and it departs from the even though it exists within the universe of Clerks, it departs from it, and he tried to depart from it for a long time, and I feel like he just kept hitting kept hitting a brick wall with trying different things, because it was Clerks, and then it was Chasing Amy. And Chasing Amy is this interesting thing, because I feel like when you watch Chasing Amy, and it's in the Criterion Collection, when you watch Chasing Amy, it's like Kevin Smith set out to make, a comedy, and ended up making one of the best dramas ever. And it's because of the amazing performances that are in it, I'm sure, but it's just the subject was so... It could have been handled way goofier, and then it just wasn't. It was handled really genuine, like there's real feeling in it, and it totally comes across. And so he ends up, and there's funny parts in it, but they almost feel like they don't belong in there because of how good the dramatic parts are in that. And then he wanted to explore religion with this, and this is where I want to get back into perceptions of movies, because I have always loved the movie Dogma, and a lot of people have shit on it. A lot of people don't like the movie, and I never understood why. I never got why. I was like, Dogma's a great film. And then I went out in my late 20s, and I bought the DVD, and I finally understood why. And I listened to the commentary, and that was confirmed. And what it was when I was watching Dogma, I only ever watched it on Comedy Central. So when you watch a movie, on cable TV even, I mean, they got to get those commercials in there somehow, right? So I'm watching Dogma, and they got to cut certain things out of it. And certain things are easier to cut out than other things. Well, two of the things I know for a fact that they cut out was they cut out the shit demon, and they cut out one of the angels. It was Ben Affleck's chest exploding. Both of which were just awful effects. With the shit demon, there was this hugely expensive looking CG effect of it being summoned, and then it was floating around like the Michelin Man, but made out of poop, and it just didn't. They cut it out of the movie, and you don't even notice. I mean, it doesn't even register that anything was even cut out, because I never remember seeing it. And then the chest exploding thing, like, they cut that out, and I think you can hear like a musical clip in it from the soundtrack being clipped, but you still don't notice it. You still understand pretty much basically what happened with, him exploding and blood going here, but not enough blood. That could have been way gory. They could have taken the money they spent on that horrible prop design of exploding Ben Affleck, and I get everybody wants to blow up Ben Affleck. I totally get it. But you know what? They could have spent that money on blood and really just splattered Alanis Morissette. That would have been so much better than trying to pretend like her dress was ruined with blood you can't even see on the screen. But because I never got to see those two scenes, I developed this connection with them. I was like, oh yeah, it's got some interesting, perspectives on specifically Catholicism, but religion in general, And so I kind of picked up what the movie was trying to put down. But then when you go back and watch the DVD that has every scene in it, and you see those two big scenes that they took, those two big shots that they took out, you're like, oh, this would have totally taken me out of the movie. This shit demon thing is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and it totally would have ruined and the thing is so I have thought of like retcon this, and I think that they could have done it better, but instead of using this big foam rubber costume and this CG thing of the demon climbing out of the toilet and everything, I feel like if they had done it practical, right, like build a fake bathroom with a false bottom that somebody could actually climb out of, and then do a nice perspective shot of the demon coming out of it, and then instead of using like some weird Michelin Man bulky demon thing, I think it would have been really funny if they'd used like a supermodel, but then like totally covered her whole body in like brown paint to make her look like, even though she was like shaped like an attractive woman, she was clearly made out of poop. Like, so you would have had this weird dynamic of like Jay being like, wow, she's hot and she's made out of poop, and it's like, yeah, that's just some hot shit or something like that. I think it would have worked better, because in the overall plot, it makes sense for there to be some sort of powerful underling to make a pass at them at that point in the story. But the way it was executed was, one, a huge waste of money, and then two, it didn't look good on screen. And this is armchair quarterbacking. It was way after the fact. I mean, Kevin Smith was making these choices on the fly, like directors have to do, and I get that, and I'm not blaming him for it. He took a chance, and I feel like it whiffed, and that's, there's no batter that bats 1,000. That's just the way it is, and it's still one of my favorite movies because, like I said, I just kind of ignore those parts. But in the AJ Snot cut, yeah, we're doing it different on that one. A lot more blood at the end, and then you don't see Ben Affleck's actually explode. You do that off screen, so you don't show the zipper of the monster. But then it was like after that, we start getting into, he made that dumb Jersey Girl movie at some point, and that was stupid. But then, he makes Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and that was still a continued departure. But then after that, it's like, we got Clerks 2, we got Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which I'm pretty sure was a Kevin Smith movie. I could be wrong on that. Please comment and tell me that I'm wrong. I can't remember, and I'm too lazy to look it up. But that is essentially the same story. They're at their job. They're going to film this thing at their job. The only difference was, instead of an indie comedy, it was a porno that they were making at a coffee shop instead of a convenience store. So it's... And then there's Clerks 2, and then they did Clerks 3, and then, I don't know. He takes it. He as an independent director, Kevin Smith takes these wild shots, and just really, it either hits or misses. I saw, what was it, Yoga Hosers? I got to watch like 20 minutes of it because after 20 minutes, I hated it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the effects. I didn't like the script or the dialogue or anything like that. I just didn't want. There was no reason for me to keep watching it So it is what it is. But oh my God, Tusk, which was based off of like almost a dare. Like he dared himself to make a movie based off of, an actual advert that they read out loud on their dumb podcast, and made this amazing movie. And I watched Tusk and not even realizing it was a Kevin Smith film. And I was like, this is the weirdest, dumbest shit I've ever seen in my whole life. And then, at the end of the movie, it pops up written and directed by Kevin Smith. I'm like, oh, okay. So that explains that. And I feel like he's really hit his niche in his stride, knowing like, all right, I operate better in this lower budget because I have way more freedom to take way more chances, and I feel like better movies come out of it. Because when they give somebody, you give a director a bunch of money, they're gonna find a way to spend it. And instead of spending all that money, he focuses on just trying to be creative and buckle down and get more out of his actors. And I feel like it. And then also when you take a risk and it doesn't pay off, no one's mad, and you don't have to sit out from movies for a little while. You have another shot because you didn't piss away too much. Like he can make 10 Tusks for the price of making Dogma, and that's just so much better sense for a director like him. And these smaller movies, I feel like are definitely a boon to his. I don't know who am I talking about? A super hyper successful career like Kevin Smith's. Like I could give him advice. I'm over here, on the Indeed.com trying to find my next job that I'm also going to hate until my YouTube career takes off. And with that being said, if you guys could just like I said earlier, just go ahead and just gently caress that like button. If you made it this far, I know you've already subscribed. You better subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed what, I'm pretty sure I was playing Gain Ground this entire time. I may have flashed some pictures up there. I don't know, because I'm pre-recording all of this with the magic of audio-visual effects. And we'll catch you guys later. I have actually been AJ this entire time, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye now.